Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports, real live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead, that's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80, that's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keita McGee on the Twitter and at Killsgram McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps today. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can listen and catch up on our other live shows that we have airing throughout the week. So if you happen to miss them, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking on the Sports Zone Chicago, you can catch us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to subscribe to our podcast, we know that you have. Tell everybody you know that have been doing it. You can subscribe to our podcast by subscribing at War Media Podcast. That's right. No more Anchor. It's War Media Podcast. We are available on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. So type this in your search engine boxes on those podcast platforms. You ready? WARR Media Podcast. Once again, WARR Media Podcast with an S. So you make sure you subscribe to that today. And speaking of War Media, you can find them on all social media platforms at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that's at War Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. You have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid or silly, I've given Lakeena full power to give you fools to be a lady about.
Bye-bye.
I love when she says that. But before we begin, we must remind you that you can catch Sports Zone Chicago also now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on the sports folder and download Sports Zone Chicago's app through that avenue. If you don't have a Roku TV, that's okay. We know you have a bunch of handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your personal PC like Lakeena's using right now, or your Chromebook like I'm using right now. Just go to the Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, 7 days a week, live and on demand.
Anywhere, and whatever you're ready for it, it's right there for you as you'll come right in.
And you know we will provide. Moving on, Lakeena. So you give me an awkward silent treatment.
Yeah, well, yeah, I didn't know where to go with that one, but let's get right to it. Talk about we're going to talk about all this first hour. We're talking about March Madness as it's down to the Sweet 16, but we're going to recap some of the games from this past weekend. We saw some upsets, we saw some great performances. We'll start. Excuse me, and we'll get back to Saturday when Northwestern put up a good fight against UCLA, but again, UCLA's experience kind of helped them propel them to that win in the West 68-63 win over Northwestern. The rules were up by about 12 at halftime, so by 11 at halftime, I should say. You thought that maybe they were going to pull away, but Blue we got it going. Aldridge got it going for both for Northwestern. So as we said, as they go, so does Northwestern, but it wasn't enough. Tiger Campbell, Jaime Jaquez Jr. I mean, those were kind of like the two seniors. Jaquez Jr. had 24 points and such. Actually, he's starting to break the record for the most points scored by a UCLA player, which is astonishing considering all the rich history of UCLA, especially on the men's tournament. But look, I have a heck of a try for Northwestern. But so what do you think about that game from Saturday night?
It was execution and talent that won out. I know Chris Collins, the head coach of Northwestern, pointed it out after the game. He said that he was proud of his guys about leaving it all on the floor, about the attitude that this team has shown this year. And you saw that with their 12 regular season wins within the Big Ten Conference. Remind me, I heard something on television last night regarding the Big Ten. I want to discuss that with you in the audience coming up in a few minutes. But back to Northwestern, Chris Collins said that he was proud of his guys leaving it all on the floor. It was just that they didn't have enough talent to overtake UCLA. They came close in the second half as they got back in the game with their defense, but it wasn't nearly enough. But we told you guys this all season long, as Lakeena just pointed out, as Boo Booey goes, so does Northwestern's offense. And Northwestern shot 37% overall and only shot 27% from three. When you cannot get consistent shooting, you're not going to win at any level of basketball. So that's what eventually what happened to Northwestern. That first half was not great. Like we mentioned, they picked it up in the second half, but it was too little too late. But, give Northwestern credit for competing hard. They could have just moped around and had their heads down. So, yeah, we had a great year and just mailed it in. But that's not their personality of their head coach. And it's definitely not the personality of those young men.
Yeah, and then you give them credit for having a great season. They finished number 2 in the Big Ten. No one thought that they think they were picked to finish like near last. Maybe not last place, but like near last. So, but Chase Aldridge and Blue Bowie, those were the seniors that kind of led the way for Northwestern. So that kind of helped propel them to kind of even get this far. So they should be very proud of themselves. And look, Chris Collins got a nice little extension, but Tiger Campbell, Kiss Jr. and the rest of the UCLA Brewers, they go back to the Sweet 16, and they're going back again for the first time for like the third straight year, and we'll tell who they're going to be playing, a very familiar foe, and just a second, probably not till after the break. But let's go through some of these other Sweet 16, second round games, I should say. You got Maryland.
We'll start with the Friday games, I assume.
Well, look, that's going on back to the first round, Sid. I mean, okay. If you want to get those out the way, fine. I mean, look, Fairleigh Dickinson,
just a couple, the ones that the upsets. So
Fairleigh Dickinson upset Purdue, 63-58. Sean Moore, who was who was all conference. The Northeast Conference had 19 points as it led the way there. They'll become just a second 16 seed to defeat a 1, and they were 23.5-point underdogs. The Knights were. So look, I wasn't freaking out. This was in the East region. Like I said, I wasn't freaking out when Purdue lost, but they just couldn't get Zach Edey going, and it was just, this is one of those upsets where the FDU was just a better team, and Purdue was very lackadaisical. They were kind of sleepwalking, and give the Knights credit for not backing down and for staying with the Boilers, and they were able to pull off this big upset.
Yeah, two key factors here. The turnover game. Purdue had 16, FDU had 9. And number 2, Zach Edey, as you mentioned, he ended up with 21 points per game. But in my opinion, I thought they went to him a little bit too much, especially down the stretch where their other guys couldn't get open shots. I get it that Purdue's game this year obviously went through Zach Edey, but some of the other guys didn't get a chance to shine, especially down the stretch. And I thought FDU really capitalized on that.
Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, I mean, it was just, you saw their coach as he was saying after their Texas. They said, look, he saw some clips of Purdue, and look what they said. Look, they felt that they could they could pull off the upset if they could do that. And to Tobin Anderson's credit, who's the head coach for FDU, that was that kind of that kind of started to believe that maybe these guys could pull off this historic upset. But look, you got to give FDU credit. Well, we'll get to their game last night, and probably not till after the break. But a nice little win, nice little win for the Northeast Conference. If you're Merrimack, you're feeling pretty slighted because you actually beat FDU, but FDU since it got into the championship game since FDU's. Merrimack's still on that year. This is the last year of the probationary period. Thank goodness. So they did get rid of that rule we've talked about for the last couple of years, but. Look, almost to the day when UMBC pulled off the big upset against Virginia. Look what happened. So they look, that also too the Dayton band too. Want to give a shout out to them for being kind of like their pseudo band during the second round games, because Fairleigh Dickinson doesn't have a band. Actually, they have a junior who's the director of their athletic department. So that just how it shows you that kind of the haves and have nots there. But they got a little bit shown over there in Jersey.
Yeah, so congratulations to them becoming the second number 16 seed in the history of the NCAA tournament, the history of the world, to pull off an upset over a number 1 seed. I want to review this other game since we have a couple of minutes left before we break for the bottom of the hour. FAU, the Florida Atlantic, they defeated my Memphis Tigers on Friday in the 8-9 matchup, 66-65. Kendrick Davis, who was the MVP of that American Conference tournament last week, Lakeena, he injured his ankle late in the game.
Mhm.
I forgot who number 23 was from Memphis. Kendrick Davis pointed him out for blowing the defensive assignment. They get into a verbal altercation. Number 23 from Memphis shoves Kendrick Davis in the bag. Penny Hardaway had to get in the middle of it and sat number 23 down for the rest of the game. Kendrick Davis did come back, but it was too little too late as Florida Atlantic pulls out the upset over Memphis. I think it was a bad call in there too during the last few minutes, and Penny Hardaway tossed his water bottle into the stands. But Memphis cracked down the stretch, and Florida Atlantic was able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, Michael D'Angelo, that's what you're talking about. That was number
Yes.
23 from minutes ago, tour with him. And look, yeah, I saw the play. Like I saw the play live. Look, that was a whole lot of chaos going on. I don't know if it was D'Angelo, I don't know if it was some I don't know who else was out there, but they threw the ball in the air again. That was sort of like a Virginia Furman situation, and just you make a pass like that at that point, you got a trap. You had a time again. You had a timeout left. You could have just took the timeout and just try to set something up to kind of melt the clock. But look, I just think that to say you could probably say it could have been it should have been called. It should have been a timeout. They were saying timeout, but you probably could have done it like a couple of minutes beforehand. That's probably why maybe they didn't,
Yeah.
give it to you initially. And plus, look, Nicholas Boyd had to go ahead, layup with as time expired, for the Owls, and he's a player of the year of Conference USA. So look, Memphis had their opportunity to pull away from that game, and they didn't do it. So it's just to me, it's just that simple.
Yeah, some hard lessons to learn, but sometimes you got to go through them to get to the other side to grow as a player and grow as a person. So that's what Memphis is going through right now. I know they won their first tournament game last year before getting bounced by Gonzaga in the second round last year. But this year, I thought they would do a little bit better. But like you said, they cannot blame no one but themselves for this one.
All right, let's go to couple of these games before we go to break. Now we can go to this weekend's games. Can I
Yeah.
do that, Sid? Okay, yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
you can. Yes, you can.
Okay, yeah, the South region, you got Alabama pulled away from Maryland. No trouble with Maryland, 73-51. They're going back to the Sweet 16. Javon Quinterly had 22 points for Alabama, and not really no trouble there. I mean, Maryland just can get the offense going. I mean, they kind of kick it into gear. I'm talking about Alabama did in that second half. So nice little sort of like good team win for Bama as they go back to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, talent wins out in this one, and the style of play won out in this one as well. We mentioned Alabama shooting the ball very well, and you mentioned they have Brandon Miller. We won't get into all the other stuff off the court because that's old news. But Alabama shot the ball very well from the field. They were 39% overall, even though they struggled from three, shooting 28%. But they shot the ball well overall. And Brandon Miller, who's their best player on the team, he didn't have the greatest game, but we all know that it starts and ends with him. On the flip side, for Maryland, they just struggled shooting overall. 12% from three, 35 overall. That was the main story in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was, and they just couldn't get it going on offense. And we saw throughout the season, Maryland can be hot and cold. Once they're good, they're really good, but when they're cold, they're really ice cold. And they were able to overcome that against West Virginia, but they weren't able to do that against really Alabama team that's just flat out better than they were. So just a crazy game, but look, a nice performance by them. I know some people may not want Bama to win, but it is what it is with all that. Now, real quick though, another number one seed held on in the Midwest region. Houston, a nice little comeback against your buddy Bruce Pearl and his Auburn Tigers. 81-64.
Mr. Slick Man.
Yeah, Tremont Mark had 26 points for Houston. This was without a couple of their guys. Of course, we talked about Jamal Sneed and Marcus Sasser, struggling with injuries. Now they both did. To their credit though, that they both did play. I mean, Sneed had 10 points. I know Sasser actually had 22. So, so far those injuries haven't really affected him too much, but they were down by 10. It was sort of back and forth, but Houston, that defense, and also they shot the ball well. They shot better in the second half. They were actually able to kind of stop Auburn in their tracks. That's why they were able to kind of pull us out late.
Yes, Houston shot the ball very well, especially in that second half. They shot at 41% overall. They took care of the basketball in terms of Houston. They only had committed only 7 turnovers, so that's very good, especially in today's game when you're chucking up the ball all over the court. Rebounding, they had a nine rebound plus 9 rebounding edge, 45-34. And so Houston crashed the boards, especially in that second half. Even though technically it was a home game for Alabama, for Auburn playing in Alabama and Birmingham, Houston took advantage of the lack of shooting from Auburn in that second half. Auburn to me just didn't look crisp enough in that second half once Houston put that pressure defense on them.
Yeah, that was a key there. Actually, they stepped up on that defense. That was kind of been the thing, that pressure defense for them. And I know Jim Nance. I know he keeps it very professional too. I think he had like a little bit of a. I know he kind of had a little bit of a smile there. Hopefully, he'll have a chance to call.
Oh, you think?
Look, he's kind of professional, this whole time. So he hasn't made it clear that he wants Houston, to play in Houston. His last, Final Four. Final Four calling for CBS. So I'm sure they're off to a great start. We'll see what happens. We'll preview the games. Later on, because they have a pretty tough opponent. But as we get to this break, 2 number 1 seeds actually made through the Sweet 16. The other 2 number 1s, we know Purdue lost. The other one, not so much. Other upsets too abound, and some great performances too, and some breakouts as well. We'll talk some more March Madness too. More upsets. Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown, as we continue with the March Madness talk on Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Oh, sorry. Welcome back to Second City Sports of the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. That's Lakeena. I'm Sid. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. If you want to hit us up in the comments section, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Typing your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Now back to our recap of this weekend's action from the NCAA tournament, as we call March Madness. I want to discuss this game with you, Lakeena, as the number one seeds, as you mentioned before the break, went down this weekend. Number one Kansas were upset by number 8 Arkansas, who beat Illinois on Friday. Arkansas continues their road to the Final Four, now going back to the Sweet 16. They defeated Kansas 72-71. Devontae Davis of Arkansas had 25, while Jalen Wilson had 20 for Kansas. Lakeena, it all came down to execution down the stretch, and my guy Jalen Wilson didn't get any consistent help. It doesn't help that one of your key guys that was supposed to help you out scoring wise gets in early foul trouble.
Yeah, McCullers, Cade McCullers Jr., as I affectionately call him, and it's sort of like one of those days where once he started getting into foul trouble, you knew they were having a problem. I know Norm Roberts was kind of Kevin McCullough Jr., I should say, but I know Norm Roberts, who was interim coach there, as Bill Self was recovering from his heart procedure. I know some Kansas fans are kind of blaming him. Well, they only and also what didn't help Kansas was that they were only 72% from the free throws. Free throws have been an issue for Kansas all season long. You saw it in the Big 12 tournament. That's why Texas were able to do what they did. Some of their losses this year as well. So that came back to bite them in the butt. They had their chance to kind of put this game away, but they did because of that poor free throw shooting. Ricky Council IV had 21 points for Arkansas. Devontae Davis, who is an Arkansas guy who who grew up not too far from the campus in Fayetteville, a little town in Arkansas. So he had 25 points in the way he's all SEC. So that sort of like propelled them. I give Eric Musselman his guys credit. I mean, this is their third straight trip to the Sweet 16, and this is sort of like one of those things where you're just like, you got to give credit to the team. And look, there's a reason why no one has gone back to back on the men's side since Joakim Noah in Florida did it back in 06 and 07.
Yeah, we feel ancient mentioning that, Lakeena. I saw that too over the weekend. Shout out to our buddy Lamont Scott checking in via Facebook.
Lamont.
What's up, Lamont? He says Arkansas played a tough SEC schedule and they played well on Saturday. He is absolutely right about that, and which helped them propel them to that win over Kansas on Saturday. Another game I wanted to discuss with you, Lakeena. The Princeton Tigers upset the Missouri Tigers 78-63 in the South region. So Princeton, as of right now, is America's new Cinderella for 2023.
Yeah, this is like they're the fourth Ivy League school to reach the Sweet 16 since that round began. They after 2010 Cornell, and of course Penn did it back to back in 78 and 79. A couple of local kids from not too far from Chicago made sort of an impact right away. And also too, we talked about Volman, who he only had 9 points, but also it was let me make sure I get this guy. Ryan Landberg had who was a senior. He had 22 points, was a season high for him, and he was shooting the lights out from 3. He was 4 from 12 from 3. And such, and it was actually really the 3-pointer that kind of like propelled them. Also, Blake Pierce, I should say, who was from Evanston, by the way, he's an Evanston kid, had his season's best, 22 off the bench, and he was also 17 points off the bench. I should say, and he was 5 for 8 from 3-point range. And Missouri didn't have any answer, and just we thought that Missouri was going to try and come back. They weren't able to, and Pierce hits a big 3. So give Mitch Henderson his guys credit. I mean, they had a pretty tough last few years. I mean, a couple of their guys transferred, their top guys transferred. So, not really, no one really knew what to expect from Princeton this season. They had a lot of, seniors and veteran leadership and such. But, give them credit. I mean, they were able to kind of pull off this upset. And look, they beat Arizona now, 15 seed, the second straight 15 seed to go to the Sweet 16, join St. Peter's, who did it, just last year.
Yeah, we talk about this every year. Lakeena, I know our buddy Lamont Scott kind of brought it up in his next comments here. Princeton would keep winning as long as people keep underestimating them. And that's true. We talk about this every year. Lakeena, those mid-major schools and those Ivy League schools that have mostly juniors and seniors on them, they've been together for the last 3 or 4 years. And against some of these bigger schools that have one and done kids, especially, you have to give those mid-major schools a chance. And we talked about parity all year, Lakeena, and this has been the most that this tournament has been wide open. And those mid-major schools and those smaller schools that have their players play together long, and they fit a system, they know how to run a system well that fits their skill set. You see like upsets like this happen.
Yeah, yeah. And so look, I think that especially NIL is becoming a big issue here. So you see some of the
Hmm.
top tier players or even the second tier players, go somewhere else. They could go to Duke or Kansas or North Carolina, or but they're going to some of these other mid major schools, because of that reason. So yeah, so it's interesting, but look, congrats to Princeton, and we'll see. I mean, look, could they perhaps go to the Elite Eight, like St. Peter's did last year? We'll see. They got a tough opponent. We'll get to that in a little bit. But going back to the Midwest region, Texas, did what held off. Look, give Penn State a little bit of credit for kind of keeping it close,
Hmm.
but Texas did enough to pull away late. And look, we talked about this. Rodney Terry, trying to make you know making trying to kind of make a case for that job to be the permanent head coach. He's making it harder and harder for the Texas administrators to say no.
Yeah.
But Dylan Disu, who stepped it up late. I mean, he stepped up since right at the end of the season. He helped them, Texas, go back, win the Big 12 again, and now he does something that has not been done since Kevin Durant and Marcus Aldridge did when they were at Texas. He had 25 points and 10 boards. He had a double double, and it was just he kind of sort of led the way for them, and it was actually also their defense like to kind of held them off Penn State.
Yeah, the one thing that people won't talk about, even though this is a big element in today's basketball, is 3-point shooting. They won't talk about how Texas shot it poorly from 3-point range. They shot it at a 7.7% rate percentage. Or obviously that's not going to get it done. But these things were evenly matched, especially defensively, Lakeena, and that's how Texas got by. Our buddy Lamont made the comment earlier about Arkansas, how they benefit from playing in the SEC conference this year. You can say that same thing about Texas playing the Big 12 conference, which I believe is was the best conference in the country this year. You could say that benefit them in the style of play that Penn State played. It didn't work against Texas.
Yeah, I know Rodney says, Coach Terry, I should say, says something about that too. Like, yeah, we know that's not going to help them win games, but they didn't really
Mhm.
have to. As they made the shots. The Sioux made the shots late and everything else. So they didn't have to really do too much. So they did just enough to win that game. But they know that they're going to have to improve that 3-point shooting now. Going back to the East region, Tennessee is now the top seed in that region. They came back and beat Duke 65-52. Look, give Rick Barnes. Look, no one expected Rick Barnes, Tennessee team, especially the way they struggled. They lost one of their top, big guys to the injury. He might be back, so that might help them a little bit. But
Mhm.
I want to make sure I get this young man's name right. Olivier Nakoma. He's from Finland originally. Yeah, I know. Actually, listen, a lot of people guys say no all year long. I think that helped. He had 27 points, was a season high for him. He was 3 for 4 from three-point range. So, look, I don't think anybody expected Tennessee, especially the way they struggled at the end of the year. They lost in the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament.
Mhm.
But hey, look now. Look, they pulled it off. Probably one of the, I don't want to say upsets since they were a 4 and Duke was a 5, but Duke was a very trendy pick for folks to get out of that East region. So the fact that they were able to, they're very like pound and ground, and they can outshoot you when they're good, and look, they gotta get that tenacious defense going.
Well, a couple of things here. Duke had 15 turnovers, and number two, they only had 2 points off their bench, and that's not going to get it done. And number three, they did not. I repeat, did not have one 20-point score. I know Filipakowski had 13 points, but Jeremy Roach had 13 points. We talked about him during our preview show last week, Lakeena. He made a big difference in that supporting role, especially clinching that ACC tournament title a couple weeks ago. And he didn't show up. And so a lack of scoring to help out Filipakowski for Duke was the difference. And they just couldn't take care of the basketball.
and I think Roach was in foul trouble too, so that didn't help their cause
Mhm.
either. So, you know, it was just like it was just their day. I'm talking about Tennessee, so it was a solid win for them, and I know that kind of helps them with their confidence and such. So as they're going because that like I said, they're now the highest seed in that in that region now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Now the last game, this is in the South region from Saturday. San Diego State, no problem with Furman 75. 52 is their third trip to the Sweet 16. Their first since 2014 with Steve Fisher was still over there, and our buddy Herb Lawrence. He's a little. We know how he feels. He's Illinois grad, and we know how he feels about Brad Underwood, and yeah, we know how he feels about him. He's been lobbying for Brian Dutcher, who's been at there the last like 4 or 5 years at San Diego State. They're for like I said, going back to their back to roots. And look, Furman, they this is what you do to a 13th seed, unfortunately. And
Mhm.
look, San Diego State, they pounded them early. They were shooting their
Mhm.
threes right off the bat. When they get hot from three, they're tough to beat. And it was just it really wasn't a game like the last like never it lasted for like 10 minutes. And like San Diego State said, let's keep it, let's just kick it to gear and then look back.
Yeah, it was the first game of the day, Saturday. I kind of took a nap there. So, like you said, after the first few minutes, you knew it wasn't going to be a game. The Aztecs started the ball well, as you mentioned, Lakeena, overall 50%, 30% from three. And Furman just couldn't get it going, 23% from three, 32% overall. This is not going to get it done. Both teams kind of took care of the basketball okay. San Diego State with 10 turnovers and Furman with 9. But the big edge was in the rebounding department. It was a plus 15 edge for the Aztecs, 41 and 24.
Yeah, big advantage there. So they were able to kind of, like I said, they shot the ball well and such. So that definitely helped them. Now going into Sunday's matchups, Michigan State upset Marquette 69-60. This was like one of the later games in the East region. And Tyson Walker had 23 points. We talked about this with our buddy Ryan Field. Tom Izzo has now won 16 games in the NCAA tournament as a lower seeded team. He passed Jim Boeheim for the most since seeding began back in 1979. And I don't think anybody thought that. I think this is also an experience, even though Michigan State did not go to the tournament last year, but they got a lot of older guys on that team. Marquette, I think their youth started to show a little bit, and they were able to kind of pull this out. I'm talking about the Spartans.
Yeah, Marquette came out hot and they were good offensively, and they actually started out well defensively in that second half because Michigan struggled for the first 6-7 minutes of that second half. But like as you mentioned, they picked it up, scoring 36 points overall in that second half. In the rebounding department, Michigan State had a plus 5 edge overall at 36-31. But the total turnovers, Marquette had 16, Michigan State had 13. So I thought that was a big difference in the ball game too. Despite Michigan shooting the ball terribly from the three-point range at 13%, but they turned it up defensively, especially down the stretch, and got some big buckets there at the end.
Yeah, big buckets, and he said to coach to the credit, he said Walker owes him a pizza because they're going to New York, they're going to they're playing
The Big Apple.
Yeah, so look, he said, look, you owe me some pizza there, dude. Use the NIL money to do that. No way to get out of to go past the rules there, coaches. You're very smart. Going into the West region, this is going to be UCLA's opponent, Gonzaga. They beat TCU 84-81. Drew Timmy had 28 points. TCU. Nice going there. But look, I think Gonzaga. I think they get kicked into gear in the second half. Score 51 points. They shot up from three. Timmy Hickman, not Strother, I should say. They were once they hit their threes, they're pretty tough to beat. And Malachi Smith, was 3 for 4 off the bench. Who's from Belleville, Illinois, who's a downstate kid. So but if you're TCU, I mean, look, you got great scoring, but when one of your top guys, Chuck O'Bannon Jr., doesn't score for like 10 minutes, who was a big reason why you guys were up by that much earlier, that's not good. So and unfortunately, that's kind of what didn't help them and such, and also too, I forgot who it was. I think it was I don't know if it was Damon Baugh who hit that 3-pointer. If he took the under, I guess they kind of played it very nicely there, True TV. But but yeah, I mean, look, we're your top guys. I'm talking about Damian Baugh doesn't score for like 10 minutes. That's not going to help you. And yeah, that's what Gonzaga kind of was able to pull it
Yeah,
off late.
I thought that was the key, Lakeena, in that second half as Gonzaga made that comeback after trailing by 5 at the break. As you mentioned, TCU came out shooting from the 3-point range. I know they shot it better overall at 36%. But you mentioned one of your other top scorers go scoreless for nearly a half. That's not going to get it done. I know that TCU, talking about here, made a run of it late, but Gonzaga was just too much for them as they came out on fire after the halftime break.
Yeah, it is what. Okay, yeah.
They busted your brackets, I know.
I know, but look, but a nice story here. If you're, I know Darren Orlovsky is very happy with this. His UConn Huskies, I was a little shocked by this. They dominated St. Mary's 70-55. Adama, oh God, I kept like these names. I tell you, I swear, like I swear some of these names. Sanogo, you think I've heard this guy's name all year long, but he had 24 points. He had 8 rebounds and such, and that's probably like I think that's the best showing by for he's the first player to average 25 points and 10 rebounds and have 70% shooting through his first 2 games in a single tournament since Blake Griffin got to go all the way back to 09. And UConn is making their first appearance in the Sweet 16 since you got to go back to 2014 with Kemba and the gang, as they call it. Of course, that team would go on to win national championship that year. Surprised a lot of folks, but I was a little surprised by this because I thought that maybe their St. Mary's threes, they didn't hit a lot. They were only 4 for 14. That's not going to do it.
They just couldn't hit overall.
Yeah, it was just like their defense really kind of like even though they didn't turn over the ball much, but they weren't hitting their 3s. I'm talking about St. Mary's.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it came down to a lack of shooting for St. Mary's at the end because we all know they can get up and down the floor. They can keep up scoring rights with the best. I mean, they've been giving Gonzaga a whole lot of trouble in that West Coast Conference over the last few years or so. You thought that their style would catch up to UConn. They just couldn't knock their shots down, and the Huskies took advantage of it.
Yeah, give Danny Hurd a lot of credit because people thought that maybe he would be a good fit. And even though he did play at Seton Hall, remember, folks, a lot of people thought that maybe this wouldn't be a good fit. But look, they've been playing, pretty well. So, good, hats off to them. Creighton beat Baylor 85-76. Ryan Newbrand had 30 points. When he scores over 20, I think they've only lost like twice. I think like 10 times this season he scored like more than 25. They're like 8-2 or something like that. But they hit their threes. I mean, they hit 45%, they're almost 46% of their threes, and Baylor just didn't have an answer for them. And look, the defense, really kind of let them down a little bit. I'm talking about Baylor; they just couldn't, get it going. And also the rebounding, especially the offense, also especially the defensive rebounding performance. They were I think like 20, by like 6 or something like that. That's not going to do it for you if you're trying to go far in the tournament.
And also, too, Creighton dominating the ball inside, especially in that second half when it came down to crunch time. We all know they can, as we mentioned, shoot the ball well. They did very well yesterday, but they could definitely score inside when you play your style. And that's what happened yesterday. And like you said, Baylor couldn't keep up. And congratulations to the Blue Jays as they move on to the Sweet 16.
That was in the South region, I should say. Now in the Midwest region, Xavier's going back to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2017. They beat Pitt 84-73. Pitt falls to 0-8 all time against the top 3 seeds in the tournament. I know I've seen a couple of those losses, but look, if you're Jeff Capel, you're feeling pretty good because look, this was a team that no one really expected anything from them this year. They were supposed to finish near the bottom of the ACC, but
they wasn't even supposed to make the tournament.
Right, so that was the fact that they got and a lot of those guys are gonna like Burton, Cummings, those guys are gonna will be back next year, so they should be really even better next year. But going back to Xavier, I mean, they're kind of like back and forth. You don't know what to expect, but Jack Nunge had 18 points for them. Who's I believe all Big East or second team all Big East, so he can shoot the ball very well and such. It was good, balanced scoring. Kunkel was 5 for 8 from 3. Adam Kunkel. So he's a that's sort of like that kind of really propelled them, and Pitt really didn't have a chance.
Yeah, and don't forget Colby Jones as well. There, a star guard for the Musketeers.
Mhm.
He nearly had a triple double, 7 dimes with 14 rebounds and 10 points. I thought he controlled the pace for Xavier, and he was aggressive early offensively, but it was his defense, especially with the 14 rebounds, that really set the tone for Xavier. Like you mentioned, both these teams were evenly matched. Both of them shot the ball decently from 3-point range, just about in the lower to mid 30s, and that's around the average. And overall, both these teams shot the ball well. Xavier a little bit better at 47.5%. So Xavier made some key buckets down the stretch out last Pittsburgh, and that's what really made the difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I also again experience too. I mean, you got a couple of seniors on that squad. So there, K-State beat Kentucky 75-69.
Crazy faith, crazy
Um,
faith. I love that head coach for the Wildcats. I love him.
Oh yeah, Jerome Tang, who I'm sure he's getting a lot of looks from a lot of guys. So I'm sure K-State's going to do everything they can to try to keep it. Well, I don't think anybody really expected K-State, especially with Bruce Weber retired. You had Marquise Newell and Keontae Johnson, who were the only two holdovers from that team. When Bruce Weber left, these are mostly Jerome Tang's guys, and Newell had 27 points. He was 3 for 8 from 3, and it was just a really, they made the shots when they needed to. And look, give Kentucky credit. I know Oscar Sheboy had 25 and 18 boards, but it wasn't enough. I mean, I know Wallace had 21 points for Kentucky, but they were, give K-State credit. I mean, they made the shots when they needed to, and that's what helped them hold off Kentucky.
And also, too, Kentucky committed 16 turnovers, and that comes with a squad that is very youthful, and that is not experienced like K-State is. I know John Calipari talked about it at the end in his presser. So give Kansas State credit. They turned it up, especially defensively. Even though they didn't shoot the ball well, like you said, they made the buckets down the stretch when they had to. And give Kentucky credit for this. They out-rebounded K-State by a 21 margin, plus 21 margin, 44-25. But as you mentioned, all the hustle points, especially at this time of year, counts for something, and that's what the Wildcats did.
Yeah, Sheboy,
Kansas State, that is.
Yeah, right. Sheboy and Case at Wallace had 5 turnovers. Like you said, the turnovers were the big story for them. So a nice win for Jerome Tang. A pretty impressive first year for Mr. Tang and K-State. So we'll see what they can do coming up on
crazy faith.
Oh yeah, he's hilarious. Miami, shout out to our buddy Espiro Diaz, and Debbie Antonelli for calling this game. Miami and Indiana. Miami outlasted Indiana 85-69. Isaiah Wong, first team all ACC, had 27 points. I mean, Miami, they're going back to the Sweet 16 again, and Jim Larrañaga is probably one of the classiest guys. I know I remember he said that at the presser after that Drake game. It was interesting because they heard like a lot of folks were picking them to lose to Drake.
I was one of them.
Yeah. See, but look, they had other ideas, and look, they outdueled and outlasted Indiana. Trey Jackson Davis is probably his last game with Indiana. He only had 23 points. It was just, for me, I think, to me, it was basically, turnovers and 3-point shooting. I think that was sort of the difference. And look, that defense, they'll hustle you. They're like, a good, grinded out, type of team. And look, they can outshoot you too. And that's what happened in this game in the Midwest region.
Yeah, Miami shot the ball well from 3-point range at 39% clip to Indiana's 32. Like you said, in the rebounding department, where the Hurricanes stepped up 48-31 edge in the rebounding department. So that's where it counts in the trenches at this time of year. And Miami did that yesterday. The reason why they pulled away was because of that hot shooting yesterday. Indiana kind of kept it close, but Miami's hot shooting was the difference at the end.
Yeah, just like I said, tough, tenacious defense. That's what Jim Larrañaga. That's the guy. That's what he was taught on. So that was pretty cool. And last but not least, just in time, because I know we're up against it. In the East region, Florida Atlantic going to the Sweet 16 for the first time ever. They beat, of course, the aforementioned number 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson Knights 78-70. Look, this was a close game for a while. The Knights held on as long as they could, but again, this was veteran talent. Janelle Davis, who's the I think he's a player of the. I think he is. If he's not, he is not. Conference USA All Conference first team, had 20 points. 29 points, I should say, and just 10 for 16, especially that paint point. He protected that paint very well for them and for the Owls. And look, I mean, I know that look, I don't know, no one really expected them to get this far, but look, this is a team that won, I think, they won like 30 games this year, so, and they have a very like veteran veteran group, so they this program has been built from the ground up. So I think people need to kind of like give Florida Atlantic a little bit of credit here. And Dusty May's done a great job with that program. He's probably gonna get a lot of runs for some of the big time jobs.
Yeah, does FAU have the funds to keep them? We'll see as they head to the Sweet 16. But a couple key points that I thought that were telling from yesterday's game. The total turnovers, FDU had 11, FAU had 7. In the rebounding department, Fairleigh Dickinson trailed in the -3 department, 47-44. So it really another game that came down to the trenches at the end.
Yeah, just a really solid show. Look, FDU, they got nothing to be ashamed of. I know, it was, I know Sean Moore was pretty, a little, upset after the game. He had his struggles. He did okay. He had 14 points, but he kind of struggled. He felt that maybe he could, land some big shots late to kind of help, get the Knights back in it. But look, the Knights have nothing to be ashamed of. They're going to be in the history books forever. They got something they can tell their kids and grandkids and such about it. But Florida Atlantic, going to the Sweet for the first time. So yeah, so we got some really good matches coming up. Well, we'll preview them on Friday though.
Well, we won't be here for the Thursday game, so I want to ask you real quick, just the Thursday game. So we're mentioning here 5:30 on TBS, Michigan State versus Kansas State, 6:15 on CBS, Arkansas versus UConn, 8 o'clock on TBS, FAU versus Tennessee, and then at 8:45 on CBS, Gonzaga versus UCLA. I'm really looking forward to that last game, Gonzaga versus UCLA. That's in the West region. I believe that game is being played in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I think the first one, Gonzaga, we know they can score. UCLA, they're balanced, but sometimes they have trouble scoring. So I think the first one is 70 wins. Be honest with you, Lakeena. I can see you can make cases for both these teams winning this game, but I'm cheering very hard for UCLA. Like Jaime Jaquez Jr.
Yeah, this is like the third time they played each other in the tournament in the last few years. Of course, we saw what happened, Jalen Suggs a few years ago. But they were all young and such. I'm sure they still remember that. I'm talking about UCLA, Yaquez and some of those guys that were there. Tyler Campbell, he was also there as well. I'm sure they're going to want to avenge that. These two teams have played each other multiple times, so they know each other very well. They know each other's styles. I think whoever could play at their pace, I think that's going to be the key here in this game right here. So I think this could be sort of like the thing that kind of like helps it. The veteran, you got Drew Timme versus Yaquez Jr., and this is going to be like one of those things where it could come down to like who can set the pace early. I think that's going to be the real key here. Now the Arkansas UConn game and the also in that West, before that one in Vegas, that should be a good one as well. We know both these teams are very tenacious. They're very streaky shooting, and both defensively they could pounding out on the inside. So that's going to be an interesting matchup between someone who Adama Sanogo and Curvis the fourth. I mean, Ricky Corvell the fourth. I mean, that's going to be sort of like the key here for that game as well. Michigan State, K-State. I mean, no one really expected these two teams to be in the East, so this could be an interesting game. I mean, look, if we saw the Michigan State we saw the last couple of games, they might have a shot. But K-State, I mean, look, Jerome Tang, I know they're going to be like, gonna be grinding it out. So that's going to be kind of like, we'll also experience too. For look, I mean, Izzo has a lot of experience, so we'll see. FAU and Tennessee. I mean, this could be a toss up if they could. If Tennessee can force FAU to to force shots and play their style and be like that, that pounding out. Because we know FAU likes to shoot. That's gonna be the key here. But yeah, there should be some great games coming up on Thursday in the East and West regions.
Yeah, just real quick on Michigan State and Kansas State. Both these teams weren't expected to be here prediction-wise before the season started. We talked about this before, too, on our Selection Sunday show a couple weeks ago. On paper, this is not Michigan State's best team, but Tom Izzo knows how to coach, especially at this time of year, and he's proven that so far, winning the 2 games over the weekend to get to the Sweet 16 in Kansas State. They were picked to maybe finish from the third from the bottom, maybe in the middle of the pack of the Big 12, which in my opinion was the best conference this year. You know, they beat Kansas. They competed well against Texas and Baylor. So I think Kansas State being the underdog and playing in the best conference in the Big 12 all year, in my opinion, they really benefit from that as well.
Absolutely. So look, should be some great games coming up. Like I said, we'll preview the Friday games on Friday. So, but yeah, we're not going to be here, but for Thursday. So we the little breakdown there, for all of you as well. And we're going to take a really quick break. I know we're up against it. We're going to talk some NBA as the Bulls. Quite a comeback. I guess the Heat and
go figure. And they had a perfect weekend. Yay!
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, as for some good news for the Lakers too, we may see LeBron back soon, and also too a couple other great performances from this weekend as well. Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll have NBA Talk come up to kick off hour 2 right after this.
No, I don't know. No, I'm scared. I mean, you're so...
Do you know that you're in my lane?
No, not at all.
Are you not paying attention? Are you texting?
I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6.
It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention.
I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car.
You have to pay attention.
It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKIDA0. That's SIDKIDA0.
You can follow Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and I can also go again on the IG.
We have 50 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. You have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions and comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV.
All right, Sid. Let's go. Keep it with the hardwood theme, but this with the pros. The Bulls actually had a perfect weekend. They were 2-0 at home. Look, this after they beat Miami, kind of dominated Miami. 113-99. DeMar DeRozan led the way there with 24 points. I was a little surprised that that they actually even had energy left, considering the fact they went double overtime against Minnesota. 139, 131 there. The Rose have 48 points. I'm surprised. Oh, 49 points, I should say. So I was surprised that they actually were able to, had some energy left over. But Pat Bev set the tone early, even though he fouled out about like halfway through the third quarter. But he helped. Lead the charge for the Bulls in that game. And he, like I said, he's been, they've been coming up and down lately. I know our girl Lana Tekar was at the game, and I know she wasn't very happy after that game. 18 points. Zach had 18 points. Vooch had a double with 10 points and 13 points. Pat Beverly kind of like set the tone for that game. He was like what 3 for 7 from 3-point range early on in that game. It kind of helped it, and the Bulls really didn't look back.
Yeah, first of all, in that Friday game, Lakeena, they had to win that game against Minnesota. Did you check out that vicious dunk by Vooch with the left hand?
Yeah.
Vintage Vucevic from his early days as the Orlando Magic player. I loved it. Of course, Stacey King, if you guys didn't check it out on social media. He had a great call for that one as he lost his mind. And I'm saying that in a very respectful, loving way. But the Bulls, they continue to win these games. So hopefully it's not too little too late. I like the way they're playing offensively, in particular Zach LaVine. I know he struggled with 18 points on Saturday, but I've been telling you this, those of you who have been listening to the show these last 2-3 weeks, I've been saying that I like the way Zach LaVine has been attacking the basket. He's not just settling for that 18, 20-foot jumper, and he's not settling for these Damian Lillard, Steph Curry type threes. He's taking the ball to the basket. He's being aggressive. And you notice he's been getting to the free throw line a whole lot more as well. So I think I can ask you in our audience, do you think that he's finally starting to feel comfortable in that knee injury, that he's finally healthy, that he's like, okay, I don't have to fear overcompensate my game. I can just be free and be the Zach LaVine that I need to be to help this team get to where they need to be.
You're seeing it more and more with him. I mean, he kind of, he's starting to feel comfortable. He's jumping a little bit more. He's taking 3-pointers more and sort of like, taking charge. And I know he struggled, in that Saturday game, but he played very well. He had 39 against the T-Wolves on Friday. So we're starting to see a little bit more and more. Like I said, sort of setting the tone early. And you can tell that Pat Bev, especially once when the T-Wolves went out to that early and Anthony Edwards got hurt and such, he couldn't play. He didn't play the rest of the game. Look, their guys stepped up. I mean, Anderson stepped up, and McDaniels had a 25, which was a season high for him. But look, you give the Bulls credit. I think this is when Pat Bev being there makes a whole lot of difference. Any other time, the Bulls would just throw up their hands and say, you know what, let's just go home. But to their credit, to Pat Bev's credit, they wouldn't let him do that. He kind of helped keep the Bulls in, keep that tenaciousness in there. You saw him in the huddle too, and look, same thing with that game against Miami. Like I said, they've been coming up and down lately, so they sort of like beat them at their own game. So yeah, look, I mean, they got a tough one these next couple of games because they have a home and home against. Well, they're on the road tonight, but they get the Sixers at home on Wednesday, so they can at least split the games. I mean, winning both of them might be a little bit of a tall task, but they can just split both of them, split those 2 games. I think they can kind of keep the chance because they're still right. Look, there's not that big of a drop between 9th and 11th, or even like 13th. You want to go even further down, so they can try to sort of keep up with the pace and such.
Yeah. Also, too, let's give Kobe White credit. I know I've been saying his name these last few shows. I know he struggled on Friday. He only had 8 points away. He had a bounce back game on Saturday with 18 points, including he hit, I think it was 3 points in that fourth quarter alone when Miami was starting to come back and they got it down to 3. Kobe White was one of the main guys that they put the nail in the coffin in Miami's coffin with those 3-point shots. And give Patrick Williams credit as well. Now, he's been playing very well coming off the bench. He had 10 points and 2 rebounds on Saturday. He had a couple of big jump shots to put that game away on Saturday.
Might have finally found his niche, coming off the bench.
Yeah.
I think that was probably might have helped them a lot as well. As we go to the rest of this week in the weekend, I should say, in the NBA, we'll start from last night. Going back and forth between these games and March Madness games. they had to come back, but look, Austin Reeves, that's your buddy, Sid. He had 35
Well,
points.
you said he's my buddy.
Yeah, you were 111 to 105 to Orlando. AD didn't have his best game. He didn't have a good weekend. We'll get to that in a second. But they were actually down most. Well, in the fourth quarter, I should say. So it actually was Austin Reeves who helped propel them in that win. And look, they're still hanging in there. It's very log jam in the West. So, but Austin Reeves with 35, a career high off the bench. Also, that defense, they showed up a little bit late. D'Angelo Russell had 18 points too. So yeah, that it was really those two that kind of helped the Lakers pull it off against the Magic.
We mentioned about the depth of this roster with the Los Angeles Lakers, with GM Rob Pelinka making all those acquisitions at the trade deadline. They starting to pay off. I know Austin Reeves wasn't a part of it. He's been on the roster the last 2 years, but you need performances like this from your supporting cast. Say that 5 times fast. But also, Reeves, I had the chance to check out some of the highlights, and he was hot last night. So whenever your best player has a hot hand, you keep feeding the ball, and that's what happened last night. I know D'Angelo Russell he came back in the lineup as well. And Dennis Schroeder, who's been off and on all year, he had a nice game too. Yeah, he had a couple of big shots, especially early in that game. So it was a nice bounce back win for the Lakers after losing a tough one on Friday against the Dallas Mavericks. I know you say that you'll get into it in just a moment, but it was the supporting cast for the Lakers that's really keeping them in this playoff race. I looked at the standings this morning, Lakeena, before we went on live. They're not. I think they are a game and a half behind the Warriors for 6th place.
Yep.
For 7th to 6th place. And as long as the Lakers can keep their record at 500, they're 2 games below now. But if they can get on a nice mini winning streak before LeBron gets back, they don't even have to worry about playing in the play-in. But they still have a while to go.
Yeah, it's like a log jam in that bottom part of the West, for the playoffs. So we'll get to a little bit more on that in a second. Now the Clippers beat the Blazers 117-102. PG had 29 points for the Blazers, and again, this is where maybe the Clippers are finally starting to figure things out. I say so.
And they had a bad loss at home to Orlando the day before, where they set out Kawhi and Norman Powell, and that was bad. But this was a much needed win for the Clippers last night, as Portland now has lost 6 in a row, and the Clippers are 11-1 in their last 12 games against Portland.
Yeah, so definitely a little bit of the edge there. Milwaukee beat Toronto 118-111. Brook Lopez had 26 for the Bucks, and it's interesting because Giannis, kind of has his struggles for some reason. We know that Giannis didn't even play, so you wonder. Some people wonder that maybe he was trying to avoid playing Toronto. There were some people that were saying that because you saw what happened in the Eastern Conference, but for the playoffs.
Yeah, the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe he was trying to avoid all that. But
that load management is I'm gonna keep it clean for the kids, but the load management is a piece of crap. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Giannis had 22. I think that's the most, their team boards and 10 assists. So he did have a triple double. I think that was the only team left that they did not have a double against. So kind of exercise those demons there. But Chris Middleton kicked in with 20. And look, I think the Bucks did what you're supposed to do against. I don't want to say they're inferior. I don't want to say the Raptors are inferior. They actually are pretty decent, but a team that you're better than.
Yeah, but couldn't agree more. A couple of the games to review from last night. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they are in 8th place officially now in the Western Conference playoff race. They beat the Phoenix Suns 124-120. Lakeena, excuse me, I'll be the first one to say if I didn't know Oklahoma City's head coach walking down Michigan Avenue, I couldn't tell you just like 99% of the world's population. But as I said before, Mike Brown is your leader for head coach of the year for the Sacramento Kings. But where's the head coach of OKC? He should be stealing some votes as well. I think I'll have him at number 2. Remember, OKC was supposed to tank this year, especially after their draft pick, Chet Holmgren, injured himself this year. He's not even playing this year. Oklahoma City was supposed to tank, but they're led by Josh Giddey and first-time All-Star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's been really carrying the squad this year. And now they're sitting at 8th place currently.
Yeah, Mark Daigneault, I think that's how you say his name. But he's only 38, so he's one of the youngest coaches in the league. I don't think people really know who he is, but like you said, I mean, no one really thought that this was supposed to be a rebuilding year for OKC. I think, but look, I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is probably just playing like, look, we're actually pretty decent. We saw they give the Bulls fits this year, so
Yeah, both
that's a
times.
whole. Well, yeah, Josh Giddey also 18 points. Luke Dort, we know about him as well. He had 20 points. I mean, look, this is a team that I think could be a tough out. I'm not gonna say they'll go to the Western Conference Finals, but they're showing that look, we're actually you're pretty deep. They kind of remind me of the Grizzlies from a couple of years ago. Kind of came out of nowhere. No one really thought that they would be any good. So just a nice showing by them. And look, I mean, the Suns. I mean, you can tell that not having KD, I think that's really starting to show a little bit there too. So look, we'll see what happens now going into Saturday's matchups. Golden State and Memphis. This is their 11th straight road loss for Golden State. Look, we know we can win at home. Road loss. I don't know what else you can say about it. I mean, that's second most by defending champion.
Okay, we're having problems with Lakeena's audio, so
Hello?
hopefully she can get back to us in just a couple minutes. We were talking about the Golden State Warriors losing on the road. Remember, they've been having problems losing on the road before the first round of Steph Curry's injuries, and ever since he's come back, it's been tough for Warriors to win on the road, and you had to decide in a couple of factors, of course, with the Draymond Green Jordan Poole incident from earlier in the season. You talk about building chemistry. You do that when you play away from your home court, and when you're at home, everything's feel comfortable to you. You're in your normal settings, and everything just falls right into place. But on the road, you got to bond together with the coaches, with your other teammates. And for some reason, the Warriors haven't been doing that this year. Yes, injuries have been playing a big part in that, but just having the camaraderie and the chemistry, that's what's really important, especially in professional sports. I believe we have Lakeena back. Can you hear me, young miss?
Yeah, you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't
Good.
know what the heck. Yeah,
Okay,
I don't know
good.
what the heck. I guess I need to refresh too, I guess. But it's sort of like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened, that they can play well at home. They got one of the best home records in the league, but they got one of the worst road records in the league. So I don't know what the heck happened there. But I know that Klay Thompson, Dylan Brooks once again got into it again during all that. So yeah, it's just I don't know what else you can say. I wish we had our girl Kylan Mills on with us. I mean, it's just, yeah, you just don't know what to say about the Warriors on the road. But you hope that they can get to a high seed. They wouldn't, because if they end up not getting that home field advantage, yeah, that's gonna be a problem.
Yep, another key game that took place on early Saturday afternoon before March Madness kicked off was the Denver Nuggets as they continue their New York part of their East Coast road trip. They lose to the New York Knicks by the score of 116-110. Jalen Brunson, the Knicks star point guard who should have been an all-star this year, in my opinion, he returned to the lineup for the first time since injuring his foot over a week and a half ago. He led the Knicks with 24 points. Jamal Murray had 25 for the Denver Nuggets. Lakeena, we talked about the Knicks with our guy Ryan Field from ABC7 in New York City on Friday. I think they could win the playoff series, but getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, not so fast. But Jalen Brunson, as we talked about all year, Lakeena, has been a huge difference for this Knicks team. Julius Randle, give him credit too. He turned it around after going through some things off the court last year. But Jalen Brunson is what makes this Knicks teams go. Period. End of story.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I thought because I thought the microphone was getting off for a second. But yeah, I mean, look. We've said it before, and I'm going to stop short of say that they're going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like I said, it's all going to be all about matchups. Even the first round, whoever they play, if they play the Bulls, dare I say, or if they play Miami or Cleveland or Miami. I mean, going off that first round, I mean, like I said, it's all going to be going to be like the matchups, I think, for the Knicks at this point. So, like I said, I'm not one of those folks that say, oh well, they'll probably end up winning and such. But yeah, I'm not ready to put them in that top tier yet. But look, I think Brunson's made a whole lot of difference, and so we'll see what happens there. Now, a couple of comebacks over the weekend too. The Jazz were actually down, I believe, 19 points last night. On Saturday but they came back and beat the Celtics 118-117. Utah had won 7 games by a single point this year. That's the most by any team since the 94-95 Spurs. That's tied with them. The 19-point comeback was actually the largest, the second largest. They overcame they had a 21-point comeback against Orlando back in 2019. So if you're Boston, Laurie Marks had 28 points. He helped kind of lead that comeback, but you kind of rest on your laurels for Boston. So it's one of those games where you hope that maybe you just want to go ahead and put it to the side and just light the thing on tape on fire.
Yeah, the Celtics had their problems here and there on the road this year. They lost a bad one at Orlando over a month and a half ago. Of course, this game last Saturday night didn't help either. But you would think, like you said, Boston has been very good all year. So you think they'll just put this loss aside. On the flip side for Utah, we talked about Lauri Markkanen being a first-time All-Star this year. He's carried that Utah Jazz squad. Of course, they made their trades and acquisitions at the trade deadline last month, but they're still hanging on by a thread in this Western Conference play-in race.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Another comeback. The Spurs came back against the Hawks. The Hawks only scored 15 points in that fourth quarter. Keldon Johnson and Devin Vessel, two of Coach Pops's young guys had let that comeback there. They each had 29 points. They were down 24 in the going into the second half. So like I said, only 15 points for the Hawks, and I'm wondering if Mr. Trae Young's already having starting to snap at Quinn Snyder. That's what happens when you bring on a new coach instead of promoting within, especially in the middle of the season. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I know the Hawks had a mixed weekend. They beat the Warriors on Friday by 8 at home. Trae Young, he got what he wanted. Got Nate McMillan out. Now he's going to. Now, if they don't make the playoffs, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to get Quinn Snyder out. But Trae Young got what he wanted, so it's all up to him. All eyes are on him. So we'll see what happens with the Hawks. I want to talk to you about one more game before we give you this week's schedule. Joel Embiid helped the Philadelphia 76ers beat the Indiana Pacers on Saturday, 141-121. During Philadelphia's current 6-game winning streak, Joel Embiid is averaging 36.3 points per game. He's shooting the 3-point ball at a 47% clip, and he's shooting the ball great overall at 62.8%. If that's not MVP numbers, I don't know what it is. I told you he's my new number one candidate for MVP. You could talk about nigga like Jokic from Denver. He's having a great year again, but most of these writers, all those writers are human. I don't know if they're going to give him the award for a third straight year. And you still got to have Giannis Antetokounmpo up there for Milwaukee as well.
Yeah, it's I'm talking about his 7th straight game with at least 30 points and 55% shooting. That actually ties with LeBron in 2013 for the longest such streak in the shot clock era. So look, he's making a case. He said it for himself. Look, I want to be able to. I want to prove to I am the MVP. Remember a couple years ago, he had not gotten hurt. He probably would have won that MVP that year. The first
instead of Giannis,
the first one that Jokic won. So I'm thinking that maybe he wants to make a case for that. I know George Karl made some comments on Sirius XM that got him into a little bit of trouble, basically saying that that Embiid's a hot dog and he shouldn't deserve an MVP or whatever. So I'm not gonna go into the whole thing, but look, Embiid's showing you why. Him with Harden, they're showing you why that they're sort of right there. Of course, they had a win against Charlotte too, so they had a good, nice little weekend there. Philadelphia did so. They've been off for the last couple of. They had a nice showing too. They also won against Indiana. They beat them pretty handily, 141-121 too. So definitely one of those sort of wins. So yeah, he's definitely making a case for them. For the MVP, absolutely. So yeah, we'll see how the voters do. We'll see how we still got about 2.5 weeks left in the season. So we'll see how all this transpires. I'll go into this week's games. Monday tonight, you got Indiana and Charlotte. I know a lot of Bulls fans are going to be cheering for Charlotte. Speaking of the Bulls, of course, their first game with the home and home. This one they're on the road. They play Philadelphia. Aforementioned Harden and the Sixers. 6:00. Minnesota and New York Knicks. That should be an interesting one there at 6:30.
Yeah, finishing out tonight's schedule, Golden State will visit Houston at 7 o'clock. Your NBA TV game of the night tonight will feature the Dallas Mavericks at the Memphis Grizzlies at 7 o'clock. John Morant is eligible to come off the injured, not the injured, but the suspension list, but he will not play tonight. Once again, John Morant is coming off the suspension list today, but he will not play tonight. So Dallas and Memphis at 7 o'clock on NBA TV. And wrapping up tonight's schedule, this should be a sneaky good one. Sacramento and Utah at 8 o'clock.
We'll see if the Clippers have finally figured things out. Tomorrow's games, Tuesday. Well, Tuesday's games tomorrow. You got Washington, Orlando, and Detroit, and Atlanta. That should be a fun one after that little loss there to the Spurs for Atlanta. We'll see how they respond. The first game, the NBA TV doubleheader, you got Cleveland and Brooklyn at 6:30.
Yep, rounding out this Tuesday night schedule tomorrow, San Antonio at New Orleans at 7, Boston at Sacramento at 9 o'clock. That's the second half of the NBA TV Tuesday night doubleheader. And wrapping up the tomorrow night schedule, Oklahoma City at LA to take on the Clippers at 9:30.
All right, some good ones here for Wednesday. You got Denver and Washington at 6 o'clock. This should be a good one. The Knicks and the Heat. We all know what happened the last time these two teams played each other in Miami.
Yeah, Julius Randle.
Buzzer beater 3.
Yep.
6:30. Indiana and Toronto. The first game of the ESPN Wednesday night doubleheader should be a good one. You got Golden State and Dallas.
Yep. Go ahead.
No. I think this is the last one for me. Philadelphia and Chicago to finish up their home and home. No, I'm not repeating myself there. This is a home and home at 7 o'clock at the UC.
This is true. Yeah, this is true. Okay, wrapping up the Wednesday schedule, we have Houston and Memphis at 7 o'clock. The possible return for John Morant, we'll see about that. Also, at 7 o'clock, San Antonio and Milwaukee, in Atlanta and Minnesota. Big game for both teams there. At 8 o'clock, we'll have Portland and Utah. In the second half of that Wednesday night ESPN doubleheader, will feature the Phoenix Suns traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh boy, I wish Katie and LeBron were playing. This would.
I know. So does ESPN.
Oh yeah, well, this should be entertaining though. Still, regardless, you still got AD, you still got Devin Booker, so it should be a fun one. It's CP3, so it should be a fun one still, regardless. Now, of course, remember TNT's got the round of 16 games on the men's side, so this is why these the Thursday night doubleheader is on NBA TV. Remember that. The Knicks at Orlando at 6 o'clock, and Cleveland and Brooklyn. Brooklyn's still trying to fight to stay in that play-in, right near that play-in playoff range at 6:30.
Wrapping up the Thursday night schedule, Charlotte at New Orleans at 7, and Oklahoma City at LA to take on the Clippers again at 9:30. That's the second half of the TNT Thursday night doubleheader. No, I'm not reading a typo, folks. Oklahoma City will stay in LA for a couple of days to take on the Clippers in this 2-game series. That's been weird scheduling this year. It has nothing to do with COVID, so I'll
I know. It could just be saving like some mileage or something like that. I don't know, but it's a little bit nutty here that they're still doing that even after like 3 years. But that is your schedule for the NBA, and so we're gonna wrap things up here after this break. We're gonna talk some NFL, some big signings over the weekend. That came down the pipe. I know Sid still got a baseball list, and I want to give a shout to a couple of upsets on the not upsets, but one's upset on the women's side. I want to talk about for a little bit, and also to an old school TV Monday.
This will definitely be fun. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You listen to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, right here, live in 11 color on Sports Old Chicago.
This year, Mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver. I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Oh, sorry. Welcome back to our last segment of the show. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, real live in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and Lakeena's going to be on the IG.
We have less than 20 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. So you want to get those last minute comments, or I'll call it the fourth quarter comments in. You can always do so at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. As we always say, Lakeena, the NFL never disappoints, especially at this time of year. We have a little bit over a month, at least 6 weeks until the NFL draft. There was some news that was made from that league over the weekend.
Yeah, more craziness in the NFL now. Well, we'll start with probably the most recent one. This came across the wires probably during all those games, so people probably might have missed that news. Pro Bowl safety Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has signed with the Lions. Of course, a free agent safety from the Eagles. Of course, they couldn't keep a lot of those guys, so now we're seeing some guys have came back, some guys decided to leave. Apparently, they once Slade, they re-signed Slade. I'm talking about the Eagles. They re-signed Slade, Darius Slade, and James Bradbury. There was probably no room for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, so he goes to the Lions. Help shore up that secondary. That was probably the one caveat for the Lions was that the secondary was not very good. So this helps them. Help put a lot of pressure on guys. As long as he doesn't punch anybody, I'm sure he's actually been pretty good the last couple of years not punching people, but. But look, I mean, when he's not punching folks, he's probably one of the best safeties in the game. So we saw that, and the Lions got a good sign.
Yeah, I was listening to Dan Orlovsky this morning on SportsCenter, and he was talking about how the Detroit Lions had made some great signings during the early part of the offseason so far. Of course, they picked up former Chicago Bears running back David Montgomery, as you mentioned, C.J. Johnson over the weekend. That does help that Lions secondary look better on paper. As I said on our show last Friday, I think David Montgomery is going to help that Lions offense. But Dan Orlovsky, I know he played for the Lions, is one of his 5 teams that he played for throughout his career. But he said he thought that the Lions could win the NFC North division. I said that's possible, but I got to see what they do in the draft. But he said that they could possibly win the NFC. I was like, I'm not so sure about that yet. You still got to go through San Francisco. you still got to go through Philadelphia. I think the Lions can be a playoff team next year, but like I said, I got to see what they do in the draft. And number two, I just got to see more from Dan Campbell. Now expectations are going to be upon them going to next year. I want to see how they handle that. It's easy that people are frustrated and you have low expectations when you're not doing well. But when expectations are at its highest, especially for that franchise, we'll see how you really are made of then.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those things where you're kind of like, I think they could win the division. Like I said, it'll depend on what everyone else does. We'll see what they do. We'll see what the Bears do. I know they've done this some signs. They're not there yet. I don't think. We'll see what the Vikings do. I know they've had a couple of the. We'll talk about one of their top guys, their former top guys, in a second. He has a new team, but yeah, I think look, they're kind of right there for the taking. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, more in the NFL like free agent news. Speaking of that. That former star from the Vikings. Adam Thielen broke the news on his Instagram. He had his kids break the news. Like it was pretty cute, but he's going to Carolina to play for Frank Wright and whoever they take a QB, whether it's Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or Will Levis or whoever. But a nice little signing by them to kind of shore off and beef up that wide receiving core.
Yeah, it's a very good move for Carolina. I'm assuming that I know they picked up Andy Dalton last week to be their veteran backup, but outside of practice, hopefully Adadale doesn't have to catch balls from Andy Dalton as far as official games are concerned. No disrespect to Andy Dalton, but like you said, whether it's CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, this is why this move was made, and it's a very good signing with the first-year head coach of Frank Wright. So it's going to be good. Now, will Carolina make the playoffs? So things like that. Now. They're like the Bears, even though the Bears, I think, are a step ahead of Carolina. But Carolina's a franchise is being redone right now, especially after trading DJ Moore to the Bears in the exchange of first-round picks there. So Carolina's foundation is being rebuilt as we speak.
Right, I know people want to say, "Have you seen that NFC South?" I'm going to keep saying it over. I know the States have made some moves, but we won't know how Carr will look on that offense until they start playing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, Brandon Cooks has been traded from Houston to Dallas, so that means that they'll probably are very likely out on the OBJ's sweepstakes because apparently those are something that I think they were one of the teams that OBJ was very interested in signing with, but. That turned out to be the case because they got Cooks a little bit younger and a little bit fresher. I know he wasn't very happy since he wasn't traded last season in season, but they got a little bit of a I'm sure Cooks got to be pretty good that he's going to the Cowboys.
And the Houston Texans, I believe, is paying part of his salary as well. So it was an economic move as well. So Dallas doesn't have to overpay for a second wide receiver to go with CeeDee Lamb. So this move worked out well for both teams, and Dallas is still up there in the NFC East with Philadelphia. So we'll see how Dak turns his performance around next year because he struggled, especially down the stretch last year. The defense kept them in that game against San Francisco, but offensively, it just wasn't working. I know they released as Ezekiel Elliott. He'll be part of their June 1st cut down day, but Dallas still has some work to do offensively. So, like I said, picking up Brandon Cooks is good, but who's going to be that backup running back for a free agent? I think he's still going to return to the team, even though he's on a franchise tag. Tony Pollard, who's going to be his backup running back.
Oh, that's going to be very interesting to see what moves they make. Remember, Dak, that contract, after that big contract, that's going to be up too for Dak.
I think after next year, Dallas can get off it up if memory serves.
I think so, but that's good to see what financials that they'll have left for them. Now, speaking of financials, speaking with the Texans, left tackle Laramie Tunsil got his nice little fresh paper. We saw his Twitter yesterday. He gets a new 3-year, $75 million deal. It includes a $30 million signing bonus with $50 million fully guaranteed and $60 million in total guarantees. And so that's probably their best player on the team. We're talking about Tunsil, talking about the Texans. So he got some nice fresh paper.
Yeah, he's come a long way ever since whoever's tried to pull a scam on him on draft night back in 2016 was with the whole smoking and with the bong incident foolishness. But he's kept his nose clean. He's been one of the best underrated offensive linemen in the game. I'm glad he was rewarded heavily.
Yep, absolutely. And the Lamar Jackson situation, there's still some rumors that
I'm like Aaron Rodgers for the Aaron Rodgers situation. When we finally come to a conclusion, please wake me up.
Yeah, let's say
This is
whatever.
no dig at Lamar Jackson, but all parties around, especially with the Baltimore's organization, like, are you going to give him a 3-year deal or 4-year deal guarantee? Can we make up our minds, please? I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those things where, of course, now they're saying that the Colts might be interested. They might, they might. I'm talking about they simply say they might. They haven't even pull it off or yet, but the whole thing is just they haven't received. He hasn't received they have not received a single offer yet. I'm talking about the Ravens for Lamar. So, like I said, for business purposes, I mean, like I said, it's silly to say that ask for all this money when you haven't played in 2 years. I know, yeah, he has MVP again, but that was 4 years ago. He hasn't played a full season in 2 years.
Mhm.
So of course there are going to be those teams that are not going to want to pay him all that money. And if you believe the reports, I guess what 270 million guarantees supposedly the Ravens offer him. He told them no. Talk about Jackson. So the whole thing is just like I said. This is going into that category with Aaron Rodgers and whether he's going to the Jets. Like, wait a minute, when there's actually something.
Yeah, and I don't know if you read in that same report that I heard over the weekend, Lakeena, that New England Patriots could be in the mix. Now, the reason why they haven't been in salary cap hell is because Bill Belichick, even though he's the head coach, he's really been involved in the player personnel department, and rightfully so, coaching for New England for 20 years. Remember, they never paid Tom Brady his true worth because he had to sacrifice some of his salary to get other players in there. So that's one of the reasons why the New England has been good under the salary cap for all these years. Can Lamar Jackson help New England? Yes. One, he will need a number one wide receiver. Number two, do you think that Bill Belichick and crew will pay that much guarantee money to take up the majority of that cap? I don't see it happening.
No,
they
it's
use
not
the services, sure. But do you see them taking a majority of that cap, especially with all that guarantee money? And they would look much worse than they do right now.
Yeah, I mean, not a Bill Belichick has something to say about that. He's going to make sure
Exactly.
to say he's not. They're not going to pay him all that money just so that they can get him. No, that's not happening. So I can't see him and Bob Kraft doing that for them. That I just don't see that happening. So yeah, it's just like it's one of those days. Like I said, wait me when something actually happens. Like, don't waste my time like 10 or 15 minutes talking about him. I mean, like I said, he needs an agent. This is why you have an agent to kind of spearhead and be kind of like the middle person. So
something that Lamar doesn't have right now.
Yeah, so I don't know what kind of advice he's getting, but not very good advice. So we'll keep that going there. Any other NFL signings that caught your attention or trades that caught your attention before we move on?
Yeah, let's move on here, Lakeena, because the NFL draft, I believe, is like 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away, 6 weeks away. So
something like that. Yep.
Yeah, we'll get more deep into it as the weeks go on. But who the Bears should draft, and will they still get their guy at number 9? Should they stay at number 9? G and Ryan Poles may have something else. Obviously, we don't know, but we'll get into it as the weeks go on. But yeah, I'm with you as far as Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going. Like I said, he's going to the Jets, but what compensation will the Jets get? I think that's the main question here at this point.
Yeah, cause I'm sure the Packers are going to have to pay some of that salary that he owes. I'm sure there's going to be some draft picks that are going to be switched over. So that's like another thing they're going to have to figure out. But it is what it is with that one. But I can't wait for that. Also, to Trent Sherfield. He went to Buffalo. I think that was sort of like kind of like a surprise to some folks, but they show off that wide receiving core. So I guess again that kind of keeps them OBJ out of that sweepstakes, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. But the OBJ, that's another thing that's going to have to OBJ see if that gets settled before or after the draft. But you're seeing some of these guys sign some of these other younger, not as more durable wide receivers.
Yeah, with old Odell Beckham Jr., he's going to get probably a heavy late incentive deal. Buffalo still could be in the mix, but I still got a sneaky feeling that if Miami can work something now, he may go down there, or Kansas City. I think Kansas City would be more of his fit. And if he could work with Patrick Mahomes on a 1 or 2 year deal, 1-and-1 type of deal, I think they'll work best for him because he hasn't played in a year. And I believe he's 29 or he'll be 30 by the time next season starts. So I can see him working on a 1 or 2 year deal with a heavy late of incentive contract.
So yeah. the prospects. I'm talking about Province's prospects. He's already said that he's leaving. I gotta get his name out real quick, but yeah, so he's so he's like I said, he's going. So he's leaving Province for Georgetown. Like I said, a solid signing. I mean, Garway Jewell, who was the top 100 recruit that he got. He was number 37 among ESPN's recruiting in the recruiting class. He's decommitted now, so let me just see how many defections are going. More news. Go back to the Big East. He has signed a 6-year deal to become St. John's head coach, according to Adrian Wojnarowski and Pete now. College, characters here.
Yeah, we do. Lakeena's having a little bit of problem with her audio. Hopefully, we can get her back in just a moment. But speaking of this NIL situation with players jumping around too, let's be honest here. The reason why we see another factor why we've seen a lot of these upsets in the NCAA tournament over the last couple of years, especially this year, because these top star recruits that they're not seeing the playing time that what they were like with their current teams, and they jump into these mid-major programs that's going to give them the playing time, and that's another factor in this too, where players jumping around. You're not seeing them staying in programs for a year or two, and so that's another factor you have to consider as well. And we had Miss Lakeena back. Let's see if we can hear her. Can you hear me, Lakeena?
Yes, sir. Yes. Can you hear me?
You're coming in and out once again. So let's see if you could go out and come back in.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on today with the audio. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, so of course, Rick Pitino is going back to the Big East. This time at St. John's. So that's going to be very interesting this year. But
yeah, let's see if we can turn that program around. He's done it before at Providence or early in his career. Of course, we know what he did at Kentucky and then in other stops as well. So in St. John's, we know historically that's been a good program. They had some great talent like Chris Mullen, Mark Jackson. They had local kids from the NYC area back in the day. And they picked up a big guy named Bill Winton from Canada back in the day as well. He was part of it, folks, for you young folks out there. But they had some great talent over the years. Remember, Ron Artest and Ahmed Peace. He played at St. John's for a couple of years in the late 90s. So, of course, he's got his NBA career started with the Chicago Bulls with Elton Brand back in the day. But they had some great talent over the years. But they struggled to pick up that local talent over the last decade and a half. So hopefully Rick Pitino can pick up a couple of those kids from New York City.
Yeah, it's going to be key. He did it at Iona, so we'll see with more resources. We'll see if he can do it back at St. John's. So I want to give a quick shout out to the old Mississippi Lady Rebels, the Lady Rebs as they call them out at Ole Miss. They become just the third team to knock out Stanford. This is unfortunately this is something that Tara Vanderbilt does not want to have this distinction, but she actually has a distinction now. They become the 8th number 1 seed to lose in the first or second round in the women's tournament. It's the second time that Louisville has done this after losing to a 16 seed Harvard in the first round. Remember, they were the first 16 seed on the women's side. Harvard, they did it to Stanford, back in '98. They're the only team to do this twice, losing in the first or second round. So I don't think Tara Vanderbilt is very happy with that distinction now. A little shout out to Yolette McCune. She's the daughter of a coach. Her father coached high school hoops for many years. She helped has built that program. They gave South Carolina, I should say, Don Stanley, her group, all they can handle. So, and they're both their means this year. So, want to give a shout out to them. As the women start, they'll continue their tournament as they go on to the Sweet 16. Finish up getting their people ready for the Sweet 16 tonight.
Real quickly, Kenan, before we move on, did you check out the interview with the Mississippi, the Ole Miss head coach on the women's side yesterday? Our good buddy Brooke Weisbrooke, friend of the show, interviewed her yesterday. She dropped a Biggie Smalls reference. Started with $1 in a dream. I was like, shout out to her. Yeah, shout out to her. But you can tell she was very humble about that moment yesterday. Mississippi, I think, won 25, 26 games this year. Yep. And so I was like, that was very underrated. But she gave her a great interview. She was very humble in the moment. She almost didn't want the water shower when she came into the locker room, but she embraced it anyway, but she was embraced by her players.
Yeah, look, you don't want to mess up your hair, Sid. I mean, of course. But yeah, she didn't.
Oh, the game is over, Lakeena.
Yeah, but you must still look. Like I said, Coach Yo, they call her Yolette McCune, Coach Yo, and look, you can tell she's done a great job with that Ole Miss program. I mean, they went to the WNIT last year. They made the NCAA tournament this year. Of course, they pull off one of the bigger, probably the biggest upset on the women's side so far. We'll see what happens tonight, but yeah, I mean, like I said, they gave South Carolina all they could handle in both their meetings this year. So they're no pushover. So we'll see. I mean, look, she could be up for maybe even bigger jobs coming up. She's gone through the race, but yeah, like I said, pretty solid. I know Stanford. I know some people thought that Stanford should not have gotten that other number 1 seed, but they said that in '98 last year. Look what happened to them. So it kind of works out, I guess, the karma.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, as we come down the home stretch right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color. Sid Lakeena here with you. Before we get to Old School TV Monday, we have another list for you from the world of baseball that it comes to. Hopefully we can get him on the program sometime during the baseball season. Tim Kelly from Odyssey Sports. He's been putting out great lists as far as players to watch at each position this year. And he put out a list of top 10 MLB third basemen to watch for 2023. I'll just go through the list real quick. Number 10, Max Muncy of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Number 9, Yandy Diaz for Tampa Bay. I think he was rewarded with a big contract. Number 8, Yohan Mercado of the White Sox. We talked about him. He got injured in a collision last night. Hopefully he's okay to start the year for the White Sox. Of course, he struggled last year to play 12 home runs at a .212 batting average. Not good. Hope he can rebound this year. Matt Chapman, number 7 from the Toronto Blue Jays. Of course, the former Oakland A. He had 27 home runs last year at a .229 batting average. And number 6 is Alex Bregman from the Houston Astros.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Okay. I think.
Okay, here's the rest of the list. Number 5, Austin Riley from the Atlanta Braves. Number 4, Rafael Devers from the Boston Red Sox. They brought him back. Number 3, Manny Machado, who just got fresh cash for the San Diego Padres. Number 2, Jose Ramirez from the Cleveland Guardians. He's been killing everybody, including the White Sox, with his bat. He had 29 home runs last year at a .280 batting average. And Nolan Arenado from the St. Louis Cardinals, who's killing it right now, as the kids would say, at the WBC.
And that's to be on him, especially with you. So we'll see.
Okay, so that's your list from Tim Kelly from Odyssey Sports on the top third baseman to watch for this year in Major League Baseball. As we get ready to wind down here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, we're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Hopefully Lakeena will get her audio situation straightened out. And as we close up shop for today, we usually do this around this time to end our Monday broadcast high in style. And let's see, Lakeena, it looks like she's getting ready to join us for the next couple of minutes. Are you there, Lakeena?
Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you, so hopefully the next couple of minutes will be close to classic as possible. Can you still hear me?
All right. So let's go to Old School TV.
Okay. Okay. Lakeena's still having issues with her audio at the moment, so hopefully we can get her back on. My screen just ran out. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Oh,
yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, my screen went blank for a minute. Go ahead.
Issues, and I don't know what's going on here, but let's go to Old School TV Monday.
Yeah, Old School TV Monday. Real quick, we'll salute the Nickelodeon game show TV series Wild and Crazy Kids. It was a game show which large teams usually. Yeah, I know, right? I know. It usually consisting entirely of children participating in head-to-head physical challenges. And the show lasted for 3 seasons from 1990 till 1992. for a total of 65 episodes. It featured 3 teenage co-hosts, including future Hollywood star Omar Gooden, Donnie Jeffcoat, which both those guys hosted all 3 seasons. They were accompanied by Annette Chavez in season 1 and Jessica Gaines for the last 2 seasons. And some of the competitions that took place on the show, it was a giant game of Simon Says, Red Light, Green Light, retitled Red Pie, Green Pie, Cops and Robbers, and a Tug of War, which is some of the fun games that they play. Other popular games were Gunk in the Sky Challenge, Human Battleship, Mustard and Ketchup Quick Shaw, Slime by Numbers. They stole that from Double Dare. We'll salute that show down the road. Pass the Bucket, Slime Dump Off, a sloppy word find, and other games including a massive game of Twister, Human Space Invaders, and Beach Play Pass Relay, and Spider Red Stick Up. Lakeena, I think we talked about this before. I forgot who we had on the friend of the show we had on last year. Remember, I said I was a Nickelodeon guy growing up. And that was one of my favorite shows outside of Double Dare was Wild and Crazy Kids. You can catch some of the episodes on YouTube. I was watching a few over the weekend. Omar Gooden really changed over the years, obviously, not just with his age, but with that haircut as well. But some of the notable guest stars on that show was Arnold Schwarzenegger, NFL quarterback Rodney Peete. And I watched this episode last night, Lakeena. He is a former NBA player, but he played his college days at USC. Can you guess who that player was without Googling?
Oh, God. Oh, darn it. I forgot. Okay, there's 90. See, I just tell. I know. Well,
since Robert Pack, a former NBA player. Remember, he played for the. He played for the. He played. He played for the Portland Trail Blazers, of course, Denver Nuggets. I think he's still an assistant coach, but he was at USC at the time, and I watched the episode when they were doing the mother and son slam dunk contest. I said that was fun. So.
That was cute.
Yeah.
Don't forget Dizzy Bat baseball. They did like all 3 years. Every few years that they did Dizzy Bat. It was the two. Look, they weren't afraid to kind of get down. So when Annette Chavez left, I don't know why she left. They never said why she left or shared why she left. But Jessica Gaines, she held out. She's very perky and very charisma. So they were just fine. I wish the show had lasted longer because it was a great.
Mm-hmm.
They had like roller and all those great games. They had like kind of like extreme pie eating, I guess. So that was kind of like the first sort of game shows from Nickelodeon that was actually like really good. Double Dare, after Wild Crazy Kids. I think some areas came like back to back in some areas. So they have cool like game. I really liked it. Like I said, Don Jeffco went on Apple, Omar Gooden, of course, as well. Fun and like let all out after a great show to school.
Yeah, can you still hear me, Lakeena? Or
yeah, I can still hear you. Yeah, you're frozen. Yeah.
Okay, let me go back and come back in real quick.
So Wild and Crazy, I said, it was a great first tier. It was Double Dare and Wild and Crazy Kids. Like I said, it was one of those shows that kind of sort of like I said, it was a good fun show for the kids and for their families. It was great. Yeah, I saw some people actually try to mimic some of those games, like the Sid mentioned, kind of go around and sort of like kind of. It was kind of putting the tail on the donkey with my favorite games and such from there. So it was some great episodes. You stream a lot of them some are on YouTube. I think I saw some were on Roku too, aforementioned Roku TV. So it was actually pretty cool how all that kind of transpired there as we're ready for Sid to come on. I give her to kind of back first. Yeah. So I think like I said, that was a really good show. And Sid, shoot.
Okay, can you hear me again, Lakeena?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I was just talking about some like the great games. So you saw some of the various people trying to mimic those games. I see people try to do some of those days at the park. So it was actually it was a lot of fun. Good, clean fun. Well, not clean per se, but it was a great time for the whole family.
Yeah, and the one thing that I researched last night, you didn't see them win a prize on that show. I was like, how can you not participate in games like that? They never won a prize. I found that to be shocking, but it was a very great show. Like I said, that was one of my favorite shows to watch on Nickelodeon, including Double Dare, of course, all that. That was a teen sitcom. We'll salute that show down the road at some point. But Wild and Crazy Kids was one of the first shows that I liked on Nickelodeon. So I wanted to pay homage to that as we wrap up our broadcast day, and we'll salute Wild and Crazy Kids on Old School TV Monday.
All right, you can follow me, Keena McGee, on the Twitter, and Keena McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much again in advance for your support.
Lions.
Yeah, as Lakeena always says, like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends.
All right, Sid. Okay, don't forget, as we say, celebrate give the program just news and whatever Apple, Google Play we have our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Show to say about this weekend's games. Check them out.
Yes, so make sure you catch Sports Zone Chicago on Roku TV. We're available live and on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And don't forget, don't forget real quick to catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday, live and in living color from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, catch Second City Sports. We're live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Coming up this Friday, we will include our baseball predictions with our girl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manica, among other things.
Also, you can catch. Yeah, we'll have a guest baseball be a podcast. Remember the new name? Yeah, we're not a War on Anger anymore. We're now War Media Podcast on Spotify, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, for Lakeena, I'm Sid. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. As Lakeena mentioned, we will catch you back here on Friday at 12 noon Central Standard Time. Until then, holla!